Well, let's get more now on those protests expected today over asylum seekers in hotels, the government's efforts to reform the appeals system too. Lots to get into. And pleased to say we're joined now by Shadow Home Office Minister and Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party, it's Matt Vickers. Great to have you with us today, Mr Vickers. Why do you think we're seeing people up and down the country protesting outside asylum hotels? Morning.
Good morning. I think there's a huge amount of concern across the country, and rightly so. We've seen a huge increase in the number of illegal immigrants arriving in this country, people breaking into this country. It's up nearly 50% in the year to date. That isn't acceptable. It's not sustainable. It's placing huge pressure on public services. It's placing huge pressure on public finances. And then we've seen some of these horrific cases, like this chap being charged in Epping for the sexual assault. It's just not a thing that can carry on. People are utterly frustrated. They want an end to this. They want to see these hotels closed. They want to see a reduction in the number of people here, arriving here. And the only way to do that is to put that deterrent in place. People who arrive here should be detained and they should be removed from this country. That's what the last government was about to do. We had the Rwanda scheme. There was a plan there to do that. Labour came to office. They scrapped that. They've actually removed all the legislation, repealed the bill that was going to allow us to remove these people from our country. It can't go on. People are concerned, they're frustrated, and they're worried about the impact on their communities and their families.
Mr Vickers, how many flights took off to Rwanda under the Conservative government?
The scheme hadn't started. You saw the legal wranglings that went on. You saw the fights with the lefty lawyers to get this thing done. But we've actually gone completely the wrong way. And the reason the numbers are going up is because A, that deterrent was removed, but B, Keir Starmer's changed the law to allow people who arrive here illegally to become British citizens. That was in legislation. It couldn't happen. He's changed the law on that. But it's no surprises. You can't trust a thing this Labour government say, whether it be the pensioners, whether it be not a penny more on council tax that we're now all paying for. But when it comes to immigration in particular, Keir Starmer and his party, who are now in government, voted against every measure brought forward to toughen up our immigration system. Keir Starmer was out there campaigning against the deportation of foreign criminals. This is not a guy who could be trusted with our immigration system, and now we're seeing the consequences.
It's so interesting, isn't it? And you would have taken time, I bet, to reflect over this summer recess about politics, our system, and how you're serving local constituents. You've been in government, you've been in opposition too, while this system of housing asylum seekers in hotels has grown. Isn't your party partly responsible for the mess that we're seeing today?
I think previous governments got it wrong. The number was too high. But reality is, when you look at this hotel situation in particular, before the election, the last government was reducing the number. It was down 47%. If we'd carried on that trajectory, there wouldn't be any hotels in the country now. That's what the last government was delivering. It was taking away these hotels. 47% reduction, nearly half of the hotels have been closed. But the reality is now record numbers arriving in the country, more people in hotels, and of those people arriving illegally, less of them are being removed. Just 5% now of illegal arrivals are being removed by Labour. You need a deterrent. We need to stop people getting in these boats in the first place. They need to know that if they come to this country, they are going back. There is no welcome mat to be had here. That is the only way to solve this problem.
OK, so if not hotels, where then? Because right now, thousands of asylum seekers are waiting for their claims to be processed. You know, if you scrap hotels, where would they go?
So the reality is, when the last government was reducing the number, it was looking at disused army bases. We obviously had the barges. Kemi has suggested that we should be looking at camps. We shouldn't be dumping these people in the middle of communities with all the consequences that come around public safety and public security, but also the economic impact. I went to Altrincham, met with business owners there. A hotel that used to have 300 people arriving in town every week to visit, to spend money in shops, to spend money in restaurants and pubs. Those hotels have been taken out of circulation, those hotel rooms. These businesses, these people who've put their lives into creating small businesses, are now suffering the consequences. So first and foremost, get them out of the centre of town. We can't have huge groups of lone men hanging around in town centres as they are. But the reality is, we need that deterrent. We need people to know that if they arrive, they're going home. That's the only way we're going to draw down the numbers. These people shouldn't be in these hotels. They should be going back to wherever they came from when they broke into this country.
We've seen violent scenes, haven't we? And at the start of this conversation, we showed some pictures of people protesting, you know, bricks being thrown, police being injured. There is a difference between peaceful protest and this type of action. Do you condemn the people protesting in that way outright?
I think anybody who breaks the law needs to feel the consequences. I think the vast majority of people on these protests go to share their concerns, raise their concerns about something they see that's happened to their country. They're like me, they're disgusted by and they think is unacceptable. That's the right thing to do. They can protest. The minute you decide to abuse a police officer, break the law, cause public out, the minute you break the law, you should be suffering the consequences. It's not acceptable to protest in such a way, but the vast majority of people you see protesting about this are not breaking the law. There's a couple of thugs who join, often they're not local, who cross the line, who go too far, who are abusive, who are aggressive, and yes, they should feel the full force of the law.
And just very briefly as we wrap, your response to Yvette Cooper and her improvements, they say, by speeding up the appeals process?
The reality is the only way we'll sort some of the legal wranglings around this, like Chicken Nugget Gate, where a guy whose kids didn't like foreign chicken nuggets so he couldn't be deported. The situation of a guy who didn't want to be deported because he might have to shave. And then we saw the guy who was a paedophile who couldn't be deported because he would face hostility in his own country. That's ridiculous. That is not the outcomes. That's not what the people want to see.
And with respect, sir, those are very unusual cases and very rare cases.
In increasing numbers at the moment, we have said that we need to disapply the Human Rights Act in cases of deportation and immigration so that the law, as set out by the government, the people elected in Parliament, will be bound by, and these people will be removed. If you commit a crime in this country, you should go back. I don't care what hostility you're facing as a result of what you've done. The reality is the British people cannot continue to pick up the pieces. They cannot continue to fund this in ever-increasing numbers. It's not acceptable. So yes, we want to see the courts speed up these processes, but you need to get the law right. You need to disapply the Human Rights Act in cases of immigration and deportation. You need to start sending people home who've broken into this country. And the reality is you can't trust a word that Labour say on this. These are people who voted against every single measure brought forward to toughen up our immigration system. And then that Keir Starmer and his chums campaigned against the deportation of foreign criminals. We knew what was going to happen when they get into office. We're seeing the consequences now. The number of arrivals up nearly 50%, more people in hotels and less of them being removed from this country.
OK, we'll leave it there. Matt Vickers, Shadow Home Office Minister, Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party. Thanks.